Good morning, fam. It is Monday, and you are watching The Sweat. 55 minutes of DFS and sports betting advice coming your way. I'm Jessie Coffield, and we're going to start with our football guys. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Kenny Ducey. Fellas, week 9 was a doozy. A lot of upsets, a lot of drama. So let's play a little NFL spin move. Need you two to put a DraftKings spin on the NFL news from week 9. So Cardinals get a nice win without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins on Sunday. They still aren't getting the love for Super Bowl and NFC futures, though, plus 1,000 and plus 500 respectively. So Jeff, is it time to buy those futures on the Cardinals?
I mean, look, we've done this every week. Obviously, we talk about the hot team, the team that's underrated, the team that won that we think wasn't supposed to win in the NFC. 2 weeks ago it was the Packers beating the Cardinals. Like last month, it was the Cardinals beating the Rams, and then the Cardinals lost, right? But yeah, I think this is what you do, and this is how you should approach the odds in the NFC. You've got 4 or 5 teams here who just don't look like that. There's that much separation. I mean, the Cardinals beat the Rams, the Packers beat the Cardinals, and now the Cardinals have come back and when everyone counted them out with a backup quarterback, beat a division rival. So I think plus 1,000 for a Super Bowl for the Cardinals is fine. I would probably rather attack this team with the NFC conference, plus 500, just because I tend to think that's a bit of a better bet. But the NFC does look like the sort of stronger division right now. I would still prefer, and I've stuck with this theme all along, I would still prefer to bet the Packers at slightly bigger odds. This is just a veteran team who just seems to be going through the motions in the regular season. But that's a good thing because they know they've been there the last 2 years. They know where the big prize is, and that's later in the season. So I'm not necessarily out on the Cardinals. I'd probably rather take them over the Rams at plus 800. But the Packers, for me, is still the bet in the NFC. As long as they stay higher in the odds than the Cardinals, I'll take them over Arizona.
Kenny, you think there's some value here with these Cardinals odds?
Yeah, Jeff saying the NFC is sort of the better division. They are the clear better division. I mean, what team in the AFC do you trust right now? I don't trust any of them. I hate them all. And yes, I love the Arizona Cardinals to win the Super Bowl. I'll 100% take the bait on this. Look, you don't usually look back at last year's Super Bowl champion and say, okay, well, what team is most like them, right? But if you want to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, they had one of the best defenses in football all season long. Their offense took a little bit of time to round out into form. They had some high points, some low points. They finished the season strong with an easy schedule. And what do we see in the postseason? They just dominated on the defensive side of the ball. Tom Brady really didn't have to do anything. He didn't have amazing games. He was Tom Brady. But look, I think that this is the scenario with the Arizona Cardinals. They bring in some veteran guys like that Buccaneers team did. And Zach Ertz has an impact already with the Cardinals. They have so much talent on the offensive side of the ball that it's easy to forget that they're second in defensive DVOA. They shut down the 49ers yesterday, a team that had looked really promising on the offensive end in weeks prior. So I think that this defense can lead the Cardinals as far as they want to go. And that's scary considering Kyler Murray. And it's not like he's going to be out long term. It's not like he's dealing with the shoulder injury again. I think that he could get right back to being Kyler Murray in just a couple of weeks. And he has just an insane amount of weapons. They haven't even unlocked the potential of Rondale Moore. So I think that this Cardinals team is so exciting. And I absolutely think that these are probably the best odds you're going to find all season on the Cardinals. They're going to continue to go down.
All right, here's something exciting, Kenny. We're sticking with the Cardinals, okay? So Chase Edmonds leaves the game with an ankle injury. James Conner leads the NFL in DK fantasy points, 40.3. So, Kenny, does Conner become a good target at the running back spot if Edmonds can't go next week? He's 6,300 on the classic slate for Sunday.
Yeah, look, Chase Edmonds is a friend of mine, a Fordham Ram. I've always maintained that he is so freaking good at football, right? So it's with that said that I say James Conner has always been a great option in fantasy, right? I've been firing this guy up several times already this season. It's because he gets the football. Cliff Kingsbury has this distrust with Chase Edmonds for some reason, doesn't want to give him, 70, 80% of the snaps. Conner's been mixing in all season. They love to give him the ball around the goal line. And we saw what he could do last week or on Sunday, right? Out of the shotgun formation, getting the ball in those passing downs, getting the ball out of the backfield. I think that the Cardinals really, learned that they can use James Conner in any sort of scenario they want. He's a very talented running back. They've brought him in for a reason. And the bottom line is they have already trusted him with the football so much this season. So nothing's going to change. He's just going to, get all those Chase Edmonds points now. He could pretty much do all the same sort of stuff. So I think he's a fantastic option. I expect to be very chalky. but I've been on this guy since week 1.
Jeff, you a big fan of James Conner here?
I mean, it's just a super annoying situation. If you're like me, you're pumping up Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds has been the superior running back. He's the better pass catcher. He's been the better yards per metric guy, but it doesn't matter because he hasn't gotten the red zone touches. Cliff Kingsbury does not give him the red zone touches. He likes the veteran in there to just grind out 3 or 4 yards per carry. And to Connor's credit, he's succeeded in that role. He's converted the touchdowns, and now his yards per carry metrics are actually getting a little bit better. So credit to James Conner. It stinks if you're a Chase Edmonds guy like me, but you kind of got to get on the boat here. The Cardinals are big favorites. They're going to run the ball, and especially with Kyler banged up, like Connor's red zone touches aren't going anywhere. So yeah, even at 6,300, he's a fine play.
All right, guys, we got to talk about the upset of the week. Bills go down to the Jags, held to just 6 points. Josh Allen had a mere 12.56 fantasy points. He got sacked, intercepted, everything by Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen versus Josh Allen. So how much does that concern you for Allen and the Bills' offensive potential moving forward this year? Like, did the Jags show a little bit of a blueprint to stop the Bills here, Jeff?
Okay, so first of all, I haven't heard from Emerson Latzia. I assume he's just still out partying. Maybe somebody could get me just a line on him to make sure he's okay. But I don't know about a blueprint to stop the Bills. I think the thing with the Bills is if Josh Allen plays like this, and I'm calling him quarterback Josh Allen, if he throws a couple picks, if he's inaccurate and he doesn't connect on the subject, like this team isn't going to win because this team doesn't run the ball. It's not that they can't run the ball. They can run the ball a little bit. Devin Singletary is actually quite a good running back, but they choose not to. I mean, they're sixth in terms of pass attempts per game. They've taken this high-flying offense, and they've chosen that's the way they're going to go. They're putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands every week. And when somebody on the other side, I mean, it can be named Josh Allen too, or someone else, another pass rusher, just disrupts him like this, the Bills' offense isn't going anywhere. So it's kind of a flashback to like the Bills' first 2 years with Josh Allen when, he just made some mistakes or they couldn't protect him well enough. But I don't know if it's a blueprint so much as just a 1 week blimp. I certainly wouldn't say that the Jaguars are laying out a blueprint to beat anyone. They just kind of had a really dominant performance by one of their pass rushers who again, it's an important position in the NFL. So it's something to worry about the Bills going forward because they don't run the ball much. And if Allen keeps playing like this, but it's too much to say that the Jags have laid out a blueprint, I think.
Yeah, I can confirm we have no idea where Emerson Latzia is. Kenny, what do you think? Is this just a little bit of an overreaction? Was this a little bit of a fluke here?
I mean, look, we've seen Frank Clark give Josh Allen problems before as well. I mean, a dominant pass rusher can give just about any quarterback in the league problems. But, I think that there was something to be said about how terribly this offensive line played. And, I talked to one of my good friends, Seth Walder from ESPN Stats and Info. He always makes the point that, just because, we don't have fantasy football, teams with offensive linemen on them, right? So we don't know that offensive linemen, they also have bad games every once in a while. They go through slumps. And this offensive line was terrible against the Jaguars, which is surprising because 4 of their 5 starters were. They just had 1 starter out. It was a rookie right tackle. And then a second round pick from last year came in and replaced him. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, I think the bottom line here is this offensive line just can't play like that. You need to give Josh Allen time, clearly, because as Jeff mentioned, first 2 years under Josh Allen, he didn't have that time. He, reverted into being Sam Darnold, basically, which is why they drew so many comparisons and they were friends and worked out together. And then Josh Allen was too cool for him. But, that's what happens, right? You give your quarterback time. You have a great arm on him, and he's able to develop a deep ball. He's able to develop accuracy. Josh Allen's inaccuracy plagued him in the first couple of years of his career. So if the offensive line's not going to protect him, first of all, they're not going to run the football, as Jeff also said. They're not going to have much success at all. So this offensive line has to step up in a big way. I know you wanted me to just trash Josh Allen, and I was smiling. I was so happy that he didn't have a good game. But it really wasn't his fault. I mean, he could have played a ton better, but he also didn't know time to throw the football, and I think that's the biggest thing.
All right, Packers-Chiefs game. Jordan Love not up to the task, but Rodgers could be back next week, so the Packers futures remain pretty much the same despite the loss. Chiefs futures also still similar to last week, Super Bowl plus 1,200, Conference plus 650. But after winning by just 6 against the Packers without Rodgers, are you a little lower on the Chiefs than last week despite them getting that W, Kenny?
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. I mean, you said it. The last 2 weeks, 2 Ws for the Chiefs, and I continue to get less and less confident in this team. I mean, look, here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, we've talked about how the Chiefs have lacked the big plays, right? And they haven't gotten those chunk plays that they got last year, which were the reason why they were able to strike so quick. He's just missing the throws. Like, he has Tyreek Hill open downfield, he gets past his man. He just misses him. Like, these are not throws that Patrick Mahomes was missing during his NFL career. So this is, I think, a big spot for concern. They barely sneak by the Packers. And look, I think that we could also say, right, the Packers played incredibly well on the defensive end. I think that's been a huge improvement for them over the last couple of years, getting rid of Mike Pettin. And now, really they've established themselves on that end. I think that, they're a team to be reckoned with, but come on, man. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was unable to score on the Giants defense, which was atrocious. So I have real concerns here. This team's just playing with, no sense of urgency. They're unable to run the ball now. I mean, Darrell Williams was shut down yesterday on a few big plays, and that's a big, that's a result of having a terrible passing game. So there's a ton of offensive problems here for the Chiefs. And we talked all season about how this defense was real bad. This offense might be just as bad. It is terrible, and it needs to turn things around quick.
Jeff, the Chiefs have managed to get the W, but are you still feeling a little blah on them?
So I really want to get to the last question about the Titans, so I'm just going to make this quick. I really don't have much interest in the Chiefs here. I think they could come up with maybe a shock playoff win or something. I would rather bet the Patriots at plus 1,600 to win the AFC conference right now than the Chiefs at plus 650. So there's my hot take for this segment.
All right, we'll go through this one quick so we can get to Jeff's question. Sticking in the AFC West, Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs get wins. Raiders fall to the Giants, so each team with 5 wins. And we're only separated by half a game for all 4 teams. So Chargers plus 130, Chiefs plus 160, Raiders plus 550, Broncos plus 700 to win the division. Jeff, where are you leaning right now for that future?
Woof. I mean, I don't want to take any of these teams. They're just so up and down every week. I would say that if you're betting this division, it's best to go to the back of the pack. I don't really want to go to the Raiders, but I think the Broncos at plus 700. They turned it around last week a little bit, came up with a shock win. Denver's a really hard place to play in the winter. Again, the Chargers and Chiefs, very up and down. I think I'm either going to the Chargers at plus 130 or the Broncos. I just don't have any trust in the Raiders or the Chiefs.
Kenny, where are you leaning?
I hate all these teams as well, just like Jeff. I don't want to take this, but I agree that you want to take the value here, and that is probably the Raiders. I think at plus 550, I don't trust this Denver Broncos defense. I don't think it's very good now, especially Von Miller's gone. This Las Vegas Raiders defense is probably the best defense in the division, and I think that, they have a lot to prove here. I think that they have some talent on the offensive end, so I think that it could happen for the Raiders.
All right, it's finally Jeff time. Titans with a big win over the Rams last night. They're in a similar spot as the Cardinals. They keep getting big wins, but the odds still show pretty good value. So, Jeff, what else do the Titans need to show to be the favorite in the AFC? I mean, I know they're your favorite.
I don't think the Titans will ever become the favorites in the AFC, and that's what makes them such a good bet. This team just continually gets doubted by people like Pierce Dietrich, who refused to be on the show today because he didn't want to show his face after he told me the Titans were a bad team for like the 10th time last week. The Titans are still, they're plus 450 compared to the Bears plus 250. They've beaten the Bills. Now they've beaten the Rams. 2 of the darlings of the NFL media. The Titans did exactly what I said they do. They ran play action. Ryan Tannehill ran a little bit around the goal line. This defense stepped up a little bit. They're not a bad team. They're very opportunistic. Plus 450. And the thing is, they've got their division sewn up too. So they can kind of just get Adrian Peterson back in shape, not do too much. Their odds have dipped a little bit where I don't think they're the supreme value play they were last week at like plus 800 or plus 1,000 a couple weeks ago. But still, who are you taking over them? Maybe the Ravens. I could see that argument, but the Ravens are a pretty flawed team as well, as we saw last week against Minnesota. I think the Titans are still the bet in the AFC, even at plus 450. Until this team becomes a favorite, I'll stay on that note.
Kenny, what's your take?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm holding out hope that the Jets can turn things around and maybe make a push to the top of the AFC because this thing's wide open. Any team can win the AFC. I think the Titans just need to show consistency on the defensive side of the ball, right? I think that's what we saw against the Rams. This is a good offense, a very talented offense. Early on in the season, the favorite to be the best offense in the league. Titans defense shut him down and, got to Matt Stafford, who, again, was a popular MVP pick at the beginning of the season. The defense was the story to me. I have always known that the Titans can throw the football, as Jeff has always known that as well. So losing Derrick Henry here, I mean, he's one of the best, players in the league, but, I don't think that it really changes my opinion that much of the Titans. Like, I still think they can get it done throwing the football. Ryan Tannehill proved himself in the postseason last year, in the playoffs, a couple of seasons, really. He's good, and I think we have to face that fact. The Titans are a good football team, as much as Pierce Dietrich doesn't want to say so. And now that the defense maybe is showing a pulse here for Mike Vrabel, I'm even more encouraged here. I really do like the Titans. I just need to see it again, and maybe again one more time from the defense before I can anoint them as one of the favorites in the AFC.
Pierce proven wrong. All right, well, it was a busy week in the NFL, to say the least, so we needed some Hall of Fame analysis to break it all down. Here's Emerson Latzia last week when he caught up with Pro Football Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis.
Before the season started here, Jerome, we asked you about the rookie class of quarterbacks with Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, you have Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, there's Mac Jones in New England. We've actually seen a lot from most of these guys so far. Who has impressed you the most?
I would have to say Mac Jones. I mean, when you see what he's been doing, and it's not just, dink and dunk down to the running backs. He's throwing the football down the field. He's going through his progressions. He's making the reads. He's putting the ball where it's supposed to go. And a lot of times with rookie quarterbacks, it's a first read thing. If the first guy's not open, then you're going to, you're out of sorts. You're going to scramble. You're going to just kind of start running in the pocket. He has that pocket, that poise that you love to see from a veteran quarterback, and he's just a rookie. So I like what he's doing. His development has come a long way, and they've got a 10, 15-year starter in New England now.
Yeah, and that's in one of the most complex offenses, too, in the league. So we've seen him make his fair share of rookie mistakes, but it is kind of impressive, some of those wins that he's had. And he's kept the team very close against the Cowboys. And also the Buccaneers. Could the Buccaneers, as of right now, maybe have your NFL MVP this season? Like, who would it be right now through 8 weeks?
Wow, that's a great question. I've got a couple guys. Obviously, I think Tom Brady is right there. I think Dak Prescott is there. Matthew Stafford is there. And, before the COVID issues, we had one quarterback in Green Bay that was there, Aaron Rodgers, but we don't know about his situation going forward. But I think those are my front runners. And if I had to just kind of pick two, obviously, they had a tough loss, and Brady maybe taken down just a notch. But right now, I would have Brady and Stafford, only because Dak Prescott is hurt and not playing. But if it was, a couple weeks ago, I would have said Dak Prescott number one. I
mean, Dak Prescott right now, no doubt leading comeback player of the year, in that department for sure. What's a team, though? We know the Cowboys started out hot, but what's a team that started out actually slow this season, but you could see heating up down the stretch and actually making a strong playoff push?
I'm going with my Pittsburgh Steelers.
I knew it. I knew you would.
They had 3 losses early in the season. People were writing them off. They've since reeled off 3 wins, and now they're in the thick of things, in that AFC North. So I'm looking at the Steelers and saying, if they can keep developing, they can keep running the football, taking pressure off of Big Ben, then they have something. Because we all know the defense is a quality defense, and they can play against anybody in the NFL defensively. So if the offense can continue to develop and come along and come alive, watch out.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about it earlier. We're starting to see things really break in their favor, right, in the AFC North. That was a dangerous drop to 1-3, but Coach Tomlin, you can't sleep on him. He has gotten them back on track with that defense.
He finds a way to get it done,
every
right?
Every year. And he's got a great running game combination as well. How about the biggest surprise of the NFL season so far? Who has it been, or what has it been?
The biggest surprise for me is the falling apart of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow.
I mean, who would have thought the Chiefs would look the way that they have looked the last 3 or 4 weeks? I mean, it's not just a one-game situation. They have looked bad for multiple weeks, and you start asking yourself, what's going on? What is it? The defense is horrendous, and offensively, Patrick Mahomes, he has been making uncharacteristic mistakes, turning the football over at a large clip. And so you say to yourself, can this team recover the magic that they had the last couple seasons? Can they be the Kansas City Chiefs team of old? I think that's the one question. That's the big surprise that I look at the beginning of the season.
Jerome, you think it's just teams figuring out like Mahomes as a quarterback now? He can't put this team on his shoulders with that defense.
Yeah, I think it's some of that, but it's also them saying we've got to do more and trying to press and do more than doing what you have done the last couple of years. Take what the defense gives you, make the plays you can make, and hey, if you're gonna get sacked, take the sack. He's been trying to get the ball out of his hand, just being very reckless with it, and it's resulted in turnovers in the red zone, in areas where you could not turn the football over. Take the 3 points, take the sack, and get back to the next series. Those are mistakes that uncharacteristic mistakes that I've seen Patrick Mahomes make that usually he doesn't make, and he's much better with the football.
Yeah, just an ugly Super Bowl hangover for him right now. We'll get you out of here with this. Before we caught up with you, like ahead of week one, you made a prediction for the Super Bowl, picking your guys this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to take home the Lombardi Trophy over Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So you sticking with this prediction?
I'm still sticking with this prediction right now as it stands. Obviously, Green Bay, we saw them play an incredible game against Arizona, gritty performance, and you say to yourself, this team finds ways to win. Now they have the next hurdle that they've got to get over. Can they win without Aaron Rodgers, right? So I'm still taking him. I like him because when Aaron Rodgers comes back, you better believe he's going to be mad. And he's going to want to get some things straightened out. So I still like them. And the Steelers, they are, probably one of the hottest teams right now in terms of being able to get things done and winning some tough games. We all knew they could win the tough games. Hopefully they can kind of get in gear and make a stretch run. And all of a sudden, I think the Steelers are going to be in prime position. And the fact that they beat Buffalo week one, that could be huge later in the season.
We've got a 3-game NHL slate tonight and a 3-man panel here to break it down. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's AJ Scholes and Paul Bruno. Let's hit it, fellas. Jeff, who are you paying up for on the DFS slate this evening?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple big names. Obviously, we only have a 3-game slate, but I like Mika Zibanejad, the New York Rangers there at 7,600. Taking on a Florida Panthers team who's really banged up front. You got Barkov, questionable. You've got Spencer Knight, most likely starting in net tonight. Actually, I'm pretty sure he's confirmed because Bobrovsky is injured as well. But then you've also got this Rangers team who's coming home after a 2-game Alberta road trip, which was absolutely horrendous. They allowed 12 goals, got shut out by the Flames of all people in their last game. This Rangers team should be flying here tonight after that kind of embarrassment. I expect Kopitar against the weekend Flyers team to really pay off here. And I like the Rangers in all aspects here to bounce back.
All right, AJ, who are you paying up for? A couple guys in the 8,000s, one guy who's going to cost you over 9K.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. I think it's just such a no-brainer and a small slate to pay up for Ovechkin here. Look, he leads the leagues in shots. He leads the league in goals. He's facing a Buffalo squad that is on a 4-game losing streak. Yeah, he's freaking expensive at 92. More than anybody else, more than the goalies. But in a short slate, you got to do it because if he goes off like he normally does, you're going to be missing out here big time.
Paul, what do you think? You want to pay all the way up for Ovechkin or maybe pay down a little bit for Austin Matthews?
I'm just a little reluctant on Ovechkin. I see Mitch Marner making a lot more sense. Marner's got 11 points in his last 4 games, and to me, he's looking just like he did when he finished 4th last year in league scoring. I just think Ovi is a little too pricey, and they limit your options. I would rather take his center, to be honest with you. Backstrom would cost a little bit less, quite a bit less, and he's going to get the same favorable matchup. So I think save your money and take his line, is what I say.
All right, let's talk about saving money. We're looking for value on tonight's very small slate. AJ, you're paying all the way up for Ovechkin, so where are you looking for value?
Yeah, I'm going to look to the Kings' Arthur Kaliev. He's coming in at just 3,500 here. playing on the Kings' top line with Anze Kopitar. He's got 3 goals in his last 4 games, 2 of which were scored with the man advantage. I think he works okay as a standalone option if you want to go that route. But I also like stacking him with Kopitar as well to double down on the Kings tonight.
All right, where are you looking for value, Paul?
You know what? I like Anthony Duclair for $4,400, Jesse, against the New York Rangers. Duclair on the season has emerged as a top goal scorer and the number 1 right wing on a Florida club that's atop the Atlantic Division, and that's saying something. They're also missing a couple of their players, I know that, but they were missing them last game against Carolina, who's the toughest out in the league for my money. The Rangers return home from a tough Western Canada road swing, and typically that first game home is always a tough one for many teams that come back from that road swing. I'm also considering a Florida stack tonight, so I'm going to add Gustav Forsling as one of my defensemen for only $4,400. He's a guy who has 8 points, 23 shots on goal, and 13 blocked shots. In fact, his 10.8 FanDuel DraftKings points, bad word there, DraftKings points per game is far and away the best value by that measure for blue liners priced below $6,000 tonight.
All right, Jeff, what about you? We need some value.
Yeah, there's some really, really cheap value I think you can get at the Washington Capitals tonight. Connor Sheary and Daniel Sprong, both under 3K. And again, taking on the Sabres here. But both these players are playing well over 16 minutes a night over the last couple games. The Capitals are just banged up. Mantha out, Backstrom out, TJ Oshie out. These guys are playing top 6 minutes. Sheary getting power play 1 exposure if you want to like stack him with maybe a Carlson or just with Ovechkin. But Sprong has actually been the slightly more productive of the two. We've seen him in spurts last year too. This guy he does like to get the puck on net a few times a game, which is really good for a player's min price. He's already got a couple goals on the season. So I would probably lean Daniel Sprong there at 2,500, but both him and Sheary, if you're looking for a min price punt play, especially if you're using Ovechkin, I would seriously look at those two because they got a great matchup against the Sabres.
All right, Paul, which goalie matchup are you leaning towards right now? I know it's early.
No, the high win probability is whichever Washington goalie starts against Buffalo tonight. Both Vanacek and Samsonov are priced at the top of the DraftKings board tonight for $8,100. So be sure to get the right information from RotoWire's website for that info later today. If you want to look a little further down the board, I see the value play of the night as Panthers' Spencer Knight, who's likely started with his partner Bobrovsky nursing a minor injury, as Jeff indicated. The Florida rookie will cost you $7,600 for the lowest price among goalies with the best chance to win this evening.
All right, Jeff, what do you think? Which goalie matchup are you leaning towards?
I'm definitely looking at Igor Shesterkin to bounce back here. Again, I really like this matchup. I mean, you've got the Panthers coming in. They're just banged up too. And I mean, the Rangers, I just cannot. I mean, Shesterkin got embarrassed in his last start, but this is a player who's been extremely high quality, especially for daily fantasy. If you play NHL DFS, you know this guy is capable of a 35 save performance pretty much every night. And look, the Rangers allow shots on goal, but that's good because we want that. We want to try and get a shots on goal bonus, obviously. So all things considered, him playing at home here, it's basically a pick 'em. The other 2 games have got some solid favorites. So I don't even think Shesterkin on this 3-game slate is going to be super highly owned. Maybe people potentially just overlooking that Florida injury news, but I like going back to him here. Again, really like the Rangers in the spot.
AJ, which goalie do you like?
I'm with Paul on this one. I like Spencer Knight here. 7,600. It's hard to pass on him. If you have the salary, as Paul said, consider going with Vanacek tonight. It looks like he's going to get the nod here for the Caps, but you can save that extra $500, especially again if you're going high up there, and get Knight in, who has been perfectly capable every time he's been called in to fill in for Sergei Bobrovsky.
All right, let's go sportsbook now. What's your favorite bet for tonight, Jeff?
So, I mean, obviously I like the Rangers on the money line. You can probably guess that. They're minus 105. So that would kind of be my favorite money line bet of the night on the DraftKings Sportsbook. But there's a player prop I think that is definitely like a good one to target here. We got Michael Bunting at plus 180. This is a player who's averaged 0.5 points per game so far this year on the Leafs, playing in a top 6 role. That's never a bad thing. And you've got the LA Kings coming to town, who really banged up, basically down their top 2 defensemen. This is a great target for a guy like Bunting to just pick up a garbage assist. Again, it's just over 1 point and it's plus 180, but these odds are suggesting that Bunting, even just looking at his historical small sample we have with the Leafs, I mean, we're getting really good odds here. So that really stood out to me in the player props, and that's definitely one of my favorite targets there. Bunting, just to get you a point tonight.
AJ, which bet stood out to you?
Well, honestly, this is not just a shot at Paul, but I really like the Kings at plus 220 tonight to get past the Maple Leafs. They're on a 4-game winning streak. You know, Jeff mentioned the blue line injuries, but they're getting good production out of their forwards. Looks like we'll probably have Jonathan Quick in nets tonight. He's been really strong to start the year, has really kind of taken back the #1 job over Cal Pedersen. Yeah, in their 4-game winning streak, they haven't faced a team as stacked as the Leafs. But at plus 220, I mean, that's just too good a value to pass up on a really good opportunity for the Kings to come in and steal one against Toronto.
Paul could not control his laughter. Paul, what's your favorite bet for tonight?
I was wondering when he was going to start disagreeing with me on this episode, and there it
Yeah.
came. Look, the home matchup for Ovechkin against the Reeling Sabres is so good for him that he's one of only 2 skaters who's lower than even money to score a goal tonight at minus 110. I view that as a free spot on the bingo card, the surest bet that I see tonight. Even with the Capitals missing 3 of their top 6 forwards and losing their last 3 games, they will slice through the Sabres tonight. And I see the game hitting the alternate total goals prop of over 6.5 for a 125 payoff there as well.
All right, thanks, guys. Jeff will be in his 3rd straight segment coming up next when we break down the Monday Night Showdown contest between the Bears and Steelers. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our football guys, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Kenny Ducey. We started the show talking about everything that went down on Sunday, but we've still got Monday Night Football to get to. So let's get your favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for Bears Steelers. Jeff, who are you captaining for the DFS showdown?
Oh, I think you got to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers side. I mean, there's definitely a couple offensive players there with just a ton of potential against this Bears defense, who is not good anymore. I mean, if you still are walking into this game thinking, the Bears are a top 10 defense, they're not. Especially on the back end. They've got 2 cornerbacks who neither of them rate in the top 90 right now in terms of grading by Pro Football Focus. You've got Chase Claypool at 13.5. I really like targeting him here. He's way less expensive than both Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. Claypool going to have like a 3-inch advantage over both of these Bears corners. He's playing over 90% of the snaps. Yes, he's a little bit boomer bust for DFS. You know, the Steelers could get out to a lead here and run the ball up, but Claypool is also a player who, if he gets 5 targets, 2 of them could go for like 50-yard touchdowns here. I think this is kind of an explosion spot for Claypool. We've seen guys like Mike Evans just come in and lay the smack down on this Bears secondary. I think Claypool breaks out here, and he's a really good value that I want in my captain here.
Yeah, Claypool just 13,500 in the captain spot compared to Najee Harris, who's 18,600. So, Kenny, where are you going?
Yeah, look, I don't think Jeff's necessarily wrong. I think that the Steelers are going to score a lot of points on a weak defense. I think Justin Fields, though, at 15.6K is actually a very interesting captain here because the last time we saw him against a decent San Francisco defense, he was absolutely incredible. He was running the football, he ran for over 100 yards, and I think that rushing upside is something we didn't know we would necessarily see from Justin Fields this season based on the fact that he just didn't run the football that much at Ohio State, rather. I think that, Justin Fields, if he's going to run the football a lot against a Steelers defense that's rushing him from both sides, I think that that's certainly something I want to look at if he's going to be running the football 10, 15 times with a good pass rush. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're 30th in interception rate. They've allowed 6.9 yards per pass, which is not that great. It's just kind of been a middling defense so far this year. And while their pass rush has been good, they haven't intercepted the football a lot. And Justin Fields has the speed to evade the pass rush. So I think that things could break for him. I think he could have a 25 to 30-point game. And I think that's really what you want.
All right, obviously the captain spot 1.5 times the salary, 1.5 times the points. But who else do you need to get in your DFS showdown lineup, Kenny?
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth. That's who I need to get in my lineup. The Steelers tight end, $7,000. There's no Eric Ebron here. I think this is going to be a big tight end game. 7 targets in his last 2 games. The Bears are allowing 7.4 yards per attempt, which is awful. As Jeff alluded to, the secondary is bad. We know the Steelers love to throw the football. We know Ben Roethlisberger loves his tight ends. Freiermuth is a guy that is very talented, has already gained a ton of trust from Roethlisberger. And now with the door open here for 7 to 10 targets again, with what should be a pass-heavy attack for Pittsburgh, I like Freiermuth to score a ton of points. I need him in my lineup.
Yeah, and that win over Cleveland, he was ranking second on the team in targets behind Deontay Johnson. So, Jeff, who are you thinking you need in your DFS Showdown lineup?
So, obviously, if you're pairing Claypool, I think you come back with, and I like the call on Justin Fields. I mean, I do think that he's a viable captain's candidate tonight, but I just think you come back with Fields and Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is basically we're talking about, we're comparing players to stocks. Allen Robinson has just been on the sell button for the last 8 weeks here. I mean, his season high is 65 yards, but this is a player who averaged 74 yards per game the last 2 years with the Bears. Justin Fields starting to figure things out back there. There is going to be a breakout at some point for this player. And again, you've got the Bears coming in, minus 7-point favorites, I believe they're up to now. You should see Justin Fields dropping back, 27, 30 more times in this game. I think this is a potential breakout spot for Allen Robinson. Again, it's sort of been progressing a little bit better with him. You see a couple good connections. It's just the volume necessarily hasn't been there. But I think in this spot, the Bears should be up for it. Justin Fields coming off his best game. I think you pair him and Allen Robinson here because I just don't think people are quite ready to buy in on him yet, which should give you pretty low ownership in the flex.
All right, these are guys you got to pay up for a little bit. So, Jeff, where are you looking for value in this one?
I'm going to do something I don't think I've ever done on this show. I'm going to talk about a kicker. Chris Boswell, others Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, ultimately, when it comes down to it, we've got a game here with a 39.5-point total. You've got Boswell. His home split's much better this year, averaging almost 9 points at home. He's a really, really good kicker in Pittsburgh. He has been his entire career. That's mainly why the Steelers hold on to him. Heinz Field, typically one of the toughest places to kick in the NFL. There's a solid kicker. From the point total, the implied team totals we're getting here, we're probably going to get a scenario where Boswell maybe just kicking some late field goals here. We're not expecting a shootout. So, you look at this for DFS. Well, who's under 5K? Everyone's going to be on the Steelers defense. Some people might take shots with, some of the tight ends here for the Bears, but there's really nobody else here on the Steelers I want to take a shot with except Boswell, who really could be in a spot here, 4 or 5 field goal attempts. So it is a first for everything, and Boswell's my kicker, I guess.
3,800. All right. Kenny, where are you looking for value?
Yeah, look, I've said it a lot, and it's because he's a very smart person and we get along and we think alike, that Jeff is right? There's not a lot of great value options on this slate because when you look at the snap counts for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're very heavy with Najee Harris. They're very heavy with their top 2 receivers, Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. It's really hard to find someone who's actually just going to be on the field to catch the ball or to get the ball thrown to him, or just have it in his hands. And one of those guys is Zach Gentry at $1,800. There is no Eric Ebron, as I mentioned, and Gentry last week played on 61% of the team's snaps. He had 5 targets. If you're looking for someone who's going to be a bargain here, I think that you can trust that Zach Gentry is going to be on the field and therefore should get thrown the football. Again, this is going to be a pass-heavy attack, I think, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least for half of this football game, until they build a lead on the Chicago Bears, because they love to throw the football. And I think Zach Gentry should just find his way into, 4 or 5 targets again because he's going to be on the field. And you also have the added bonus that around the red zone, Ben Roethlisberger does like to target his tight ends as well. We could even see Zach Gentry score a touchdown. So I think that if you're looking for value, you probably got to look at tight ends. And I think Zach Gentry, Jesse James as well, $3,000 in a revenge spot, 54% of snaps last week for Chicago. These are not exciting options, but that's all I got, Jesse. I'm sorry.
They might not be exciting, but they're going to get the job done, Kenny. That's what we like. All right, let's move on over to the DK Sportsbook side of things. How about your favorite prop bet for tonight, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Justin Fields over 229.5 passing and rushing yards. He had over 100 last week, as I said, against San Francisco. This is a Pittsburgh defense that just hasn't really found its way this season, guarding against the pass or the rush. The one thing they have consistently done well over the years is rush the passer, and Justin Fields has exhibited that he can get around a good pass rush with his speed, with his legs. So I think that that'll have him outside of the pocket a lot. I think he'll run And I think ultimately he should be able to gain enough yards based on, look, I mean, the Steelers secondary just hasn't really lived up to what we thought it was going to be. So I think that he should have some success through the air as well. But I like this prop because you get the added built-in, like, well, he's just running for his life. You know, he could still get you the over. So I like this.
Jeff, need a prop bet from you.
First of all, I love that call by Kenny. I think Fields' passing prop is good to go over, but I love the combo because there's so many ways he can get you the over there. I'm going to do something I did on Thursday, and this worked out really well. We're going to go to the player parlays under this game. So you click on the game, you go to player parlays on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and you go to Chase Claypool. You go under receiving the receivers, for the player parlays. You go to Chase Claypool. You can get plus 1,700 on Chase Claypool to go over 125 receiving yards and score 1 touchdown. He's already done this once this season. Twice last year, he went over 100 yards and scored a touchdown. Look, we hit this with Jonathan Taylor at plus 800 on Thursday night. He went over like 150 yards and scored a touchdown. It's a very similar situation. You've got a dominant offensive player going against one of the worst secondaries in the league. We're just talking about like one long catch and then a couple other catches to pad the receiving stats here. Claypool could absolutely do this. I think we're getting very good odds. Keep checking these player parlays. I love this feature on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I think it's a very good spot to take that plus 1,700 on Chase Claypool.
We love all the features on the DraftKings Sportsbook. All right,
all of them.
Let's go slate approved pick, though, Jeff. What is your favorite bet for tonight?
All right. I mean, you have to attack the over on these player props on the Bears. Kenny mentioned the Justin Fields one. I love that one. I'm going to go take it a step further. Allen Robinson, over 38.5 receiving yards. I mean, are you kidding me? At the start of the year, if you had told me you could get 38.5 yards on an over-under total for Allen Robinson, people would have been like legitimately climbing over, stampeding over each other to take the over here. Just take it. This is a player who's averaged 74 yards per game the last 2 years with the Bears. Fields is figuring it out. This is so ridiculously low. Take the over on Allen Robinson's receiving prop tonight.
Kenny, which bet are you absolutely stampeding to get to?
Yeah, I am looking at looking at the game total, over 40 points. We keep talking about how, these Steelers offensive weapons are going to go completely berserk against this terrible Bears secondary. We're talking about how Justin Fields is going to have a good game and how Allen Robinson is going to get all these yards. I think that the over 40 points has to hit if all these things are going to be true about this football game. And I think that they are. I think that the Steelers defense is getting just a little too much credit here. This is a defense I've believed in all season long and will continue to believe in. But looking at the numbers and looking at Justin Fields' momentum here and how he looked last week, it's just impossible to think that this defense doesn't allow like just a couple touchdowns, right? And just 14 points, just 10 points here. I think that spots you enough for the Steelers to go ahead and cover this over for you. So I think this is a spot where I'm targeting a super low total, and I'm going to go over. And I think that the Steelers just throw all night long, and they have success all night long. Justin Fields mixes in a couple scores.
All right, thanks, guys. Jeff, you are finally free to go. Kenny needs you to stick around for NBA Building Blocks. We will be right back. Final block of this Monday show, and we're closing it out on the hardwood with our basketball dudes. DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey and RotoWire's Nick Whalen. It's a segment we call NBA Building Blocks. So you tell us which players you're building your DFS lineups around tonight for the NBA's 8-game slate. So Kenny, who's the guard that you want to build around tonight?
Yeah, look, I want to be on the right side of history here. I want to come out and I don't want any problems with the Heat defense. I want to say I respect the Heat defense. This is a very good basketball team. I almost said football team. Wrong segment. I like PJ Dozier here tonight at $3,300. The minutes are just going to be too good to ignore. He had almost a fantasy point a minute last time out, and now there's just so many injuries for Denver, but no Michael Porter Jr. is the big one. 23 minutes against Houston, 22.5 fantasy points. I mean, that type of production, even if he reverts back to, just 18 points, if he struggles on the offensive side of the ball, I still think that this is just, $3,300, you really don't want much, right? You want probably 15 fantasy points. I think the Dozier should be able to get that for you at the guard position. And with that, that's a great guy to build around. Just super cheap, and he's going to probably get a ton of run here. And, I ultimately expect that this is going to go well for Dozier owners.
Super cheap and had 22.5 fantasy points his last time out. Nick, which guard are you building around?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, Dozier's a great call by Kenny. I think if I'm going to look into the cheaper range at guard, I like Tyrese Maxey. He's at 5,900 tonight going up against the New York Knicks. Another guy who, due to a number of factors right now in Philly, is playing a ton of minutes. He's been in the high 30s, even the low 40s over his last few games. So much like Dozier, not a guy who you're expecting to give you like 55 DraftKings points. When you're playing that many minutes, you're naturally just going to rack up stats. If you're looking for a more expensive option, I do like James Harden tonight. He's at 10,100 against the Bulls, coming off of a 55 DraftKings point game yesterday. Took a season high 20 shots in that game. You do wonder if maybe he's starting to round himself into game shape now that we're 10, 11 games into the year. The Chicago defense has slipped a bit after that hot start. They're giving up the second most layups in the league in terms of percentage of opponent points, coming in that range. Obviously, James Harden, a great penetrator. So if you're going cheap, I like Tyrese Maxey. If you're going expensive, I like James Harden.
All right, which forward do you think is the best play here, Nick?
I keep kind of waiting for the luck to run out on Harrison Barnes, but I don't know what he's done to deserve this. He's actually cheaper tonight. He's matched his cheapest price tag of the entire season at 7,300, despite continuing this hot start on a nightly basis. Suns defense in the bottom half of the league right now. They've been off to kind of a hot and cold start. Obviously, no DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix tonight. These are two top 10 teams in pace. So I think this is another good spot for Harrison Barnes. And then I'm going to go to that Denver game, that Kenny mentioned with PJ Dozier. My favorite value in that one is Will Barton at 5,500. He's been really good all season, kind of a bounce back year for him after being injured in and out of the lineup for a lot of last season. He's gotten even more opportunity with Michael Porter Jr. struggling to begin the year. Obviously, MPJ now out of this game. I think that opens things up even more for Will Barton. He has 6 games over 30 DraftKings points already. He has 47 and 37 DraftKings points over his last 2 games, respectively. And he played 40 and 37 minutes in those 2. So I don't really know if that changes anytime soon with Michael Porter Jr. out of the lineup indefinitely.
All right, Kenny, which forward do you think is the best play?
Look, I really like targeting some of the Grizzlies here, against a weak Minnesota front court. But I'm going to go to another guy that I never thought I would recommend this early in the season anyway. But I think the price is right now, and it's Kristaps Porzingis at $6,700. I think that we got a little too excited when he, finally returned to the Mavericks, and he's, just kind of had his minutes managed. But, this is a guy that's had a usage rate of 30% or more in 2 of his 4 games. He should be a full go here. They had a day off on Sunday. They got a day off tomorrow, the Mavericks. So there's no reason why Porzingis shouldn't see his full complement of minutes. And this is a Pelicans team that is the 3rd worst defense in the league, and they are allowing the 2nd highest field goal percentage inside of 10 feet. Obviously, Porzingis is a stretch 4. He's going to shoot threes, but he's going to also have a very effective game in the post, I think, just against a terrible, terrible defensive unit. And he should be getting the ball. He should be getting that usage as we've seen this year, as long as he is not on a minutes cap or they're not playing him on a second night of a back-to-back or on the front end. Not going to run into that here. We know he's talented. We know he's going against a bad defense. The pace also should be pretty good in this game, the pace rating. So I like Porzingis here. I think he's a sneaky play at $6,700 forward.
All right, Kenny, let's move to the center position. Which guy are you building around?
Yeah, it's my man, Steven Adams, $4,500 going up against the Timberwolves. They're the worst rebounding team in the league. You don't usually get excited about Steven Adams, right? He's not going to fill it up. He's not going to score 25 points. But what he is going to do is grab rebounds. And when you have potentially the best rebounder in basketball, or one of the best, going up against the worst rebounding unit in basketball, you can essentially guarantee yourself a nice cushion there of fantasy points with Steven Adams. And look, when we saw Steven Adams against Denver see about 30 minutes, and he faced Nikola Jokic in those games, I think we're going to see something very similar here with Cat on the other side of this matchup against the Timberwolves. I really like him to have, another 25 to 30-minute game. He can definitely score you over 20, 25 points on a fantasy perspective, and I think that ultimately makes him worth it at $4,300. I really like this spot.
Nick, which center do you think is in a good spot?
I'm going to return to that Phoenix-Sacramento game that I mentioned earlier. Two teams, top 10 in the league in pace. Kings put up 140 in the game over the weekend. I like Rashawn Holmes. He's priced at 7,200 going up against that Suns team. Again, no DeAndre Ayton. For the Phoenix Suns tonight, that means we're looking at Frank Kaminsky. We're looking at JaVale McGee for a lot of minutes at center. I think that's a pretty appealing matchup, certainly compared to DeAndre Ayton. Holmes is coming off of a bit of a down game, but he had 23 and 20 over the weekend against Charlotte. That's the one where, where Sacramento went crazy and put up 140. You can't necessarily expect that, but, he's a guy who scores efficiently. He grabs a ton of rebounds. He can block shots. I think 7,200, very fair price tonight for Rashawn Holmes.
All right, DK Sportsbook time. Which bet on the DK Sportsbook are you looking to build your bankroll with, Nick?
I have a few that I'll throw out quickly. I like the Nets to win outright at Chicago tonight. They're currently +1 in that one. Tough back-to-back for Brooklyn, but I like what I've seen from KD and Harden. Hard-fought win over a Toronto team that I thought played really well for most of that game yesterday. I like the Heat to win at Denver. They got tripped up by Boston over the weekend, had easily their worst game of the year. But of course, bounce back with a really, really nice win over Utah. They're number 2 in both offensive and defensive rating. Duncan Robinson really hasn't given them anything yet. He's shooting 32% from 3, taking a ton, missing a ton. So I think there's still some ceiling for Miami to potentially reach once he gets going. That's going to happen at some point. And then lastly, I like the Charlotte Hornets, to cover +2 right now at the Los Angeles Lakers. Hornets have cooled off a bit after that slow start, but this is more about just putting no faith whatsoever in the Lakers without LeBron James. This team, as has been the case for like the last 18 years, whenever LeBron sits, whoever's on the roster, it hasn't really mattered, has just looked completely incompetent. And the addition of Russell Westbrook has only kind of poured gas on that fire. So I'm not even sure why the Lakers are favored in this game. I really like Charlotte to take it.
Right, Kenny, what do you think?
Like Knicks money line at +155, baby, in Philly. Look, this is a situation where the Knicks, they might be a little thin at guard here, but this is why they have one of the deepest rosters in basketball, right? Emmanuel Quickley's looked really good in the last 2 games. He should get a ton of minutes here if the Knicks continue to be thin there. We don't have the injury report yet. But one team we do know is going to be thin is the Sixers. No Tobias Harris still. Now no Matisse Thybulle, which has been giant for them. He's been a tremendous force on the defensive end for his entire career, really. But look, I think that's going to hurt defending R.J. Barrett, defending Evan Fournier. I think that there's going to be some serious issues with the Sixers on the defensive side of the ball. And, I mean, come on, this Knicks defense just can't keep playing this poorly, not under Tom Thibodeau, not with some of the talented defenders they have down low. I think that this team's finally starting to get a little healthier in the front court anyway. I think that could help tonight, and just a depleted Sixers team. I think this is really good value given the way that, this team has continued to score the basketball. And last night might have been a little bit of a fluke of Ricky Rubio going off. I don't think that necessarily if the Knicks have a poor game like that, we see the type of line that we do right now at 11:30 a.m. So or 11:50 as it may be. So I think the Knicks can win this with this game in Philly.
All right, 2-minute warning on this last one. Bonus building block. Which franchise building block do you like for Rookie of the Year right now? So Jalen Green is the favorite at +330 on the DK Sportsbook, but Scotty Barnes has been climbing all season and is right behind him at +350. So what do you think, Kenny?
I'm taking Cade Cunningham still, +450. I just think he's the most talented player out of this group, and we saw him score 17 points against the Nets. He cooked Kevin Durant. He hit some big shots. This is just... We've only seen him a handful of times, and I think that recency bias is already playing a factor here, right? He was already dropping before he even saw the court, and then plays a couple crummy games. Everyone rushes to bet on the hotter starting rookies. I think that ultimately, when we come to the end of the season, Cade Cunningham's going to have the best years. So I'm actually getting ahead of all the steam and probably just taking it.
All right, Nick, you like Jalen Green or Scotty Barnes or someone else?
Well, I like the Cunningham call. I think people were way too quick to jump off of Cade Cunningham when he had like 1.5 bad games, and we just determined that he was a bust and should be released. But I do think I like Evan Mobley the most right now. I think he's seemingly been the guy who, hasn't really tripped up at all. Like, it feels like he hasn't really had any bad games. And every night you go on Twitter, there's a new 2.5-minute compilation of him single-handedly carrying the Cavaliers defense. The question is, how much does that translate to Rookie of the Year voting? A lot of this award is just add up points, rebounds, and assists, and whoever has the most usually wins the award. So if Jalen Green gets hot over the second half of last season, or second half of this season, I should say, same with Cade Cunningham, if it's kind of an Anthony Edwards situation, slow start, and then all of a sudden you're averaging 25 and 5 over the final 40 games of the year, maybe that's enough. But I think Evan Mobley is going to be the most consistent. I think he's the guy, that people who really dig into this stuff are going to say he was by far the most impactful. The question is, by the end of the year, with all the pieces that they have around him, his numbers maybe won't be quite as impressive as what he's been doing, kind of on the margins to help this team. So to me, he's still the best bet, though, at 4-1. I think you're getting good value. I'm surprised he's actually not listed as the favorite right now.
All right, that's a show, folks. Don't forget, we got Madden starting at noon, Bears, Chiefs. Then the slate will be at 5 p.m. with Brendan Glasheen, Jeff Ulrich, and Matt Meiselman. They'll be breaking down, of course, the Bears-Steelers game. I'm Jessie Coffield. The Swell will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.